Good morning. Welcome. I'm Michele Peterson, and I am the owner and founder of Exactly Right Online Marketing and Marketing Results Academy. We are Book Club Day. Welcome. I am so glad that you're with me today, and especially because we are finishing up our month of discussing Harvard Business Review's Influence and Persuasion. This is in their Emotional Intelligence series. So, Influence and Persuasion from the Harvard Business Review. So today's chapter is all about charisma. And, you know, isn't it interesting? And this, the point that it was made in this chapter as well, by the way, this was, the authors were John, I'm going to murder this name, I'm sure, Antonakis, Marika Fenley, and Sue Lichty. So they were talking about charisma, and one of the points they made in the chapter was, so many of us think that people either have charisma or you don't. You're born with charisma. We all know charisma when we see it, right? Those people who just come into the room and they're always, confident. They always, get people on their side. They're persuasive, right? They're influential. So no wonder they're talking about charisma in this book, right? But so the point is that while charisma is powerful and it can be learned. And they have pinpointed 12 different elements of charisma, or different things that you can use to be more charismatic. So first of all, let's define what charisma is. What are we talking about here? And let me read it to you. Charisma is the ability to communicate a clear, visionary, and inspirational message that captivates and motivates an audience. Let me read that again. The ability to communicate a clear, visionary, and inspirational message that captivates and motivates an audience. That's what we want to do, right? Both as leaders, as marketers, we want to captivate and motivate an audience. So how do we develop charisma? How do we, even if we already have it, how do we continue to maximize it and use it to its fullest capacity, its fullest effectiveness? We're going to dive into that right now. So if a leader, so we're talking about, why do we want to use charisma? We want to inspire, we want to motivate an audience. And when you can tap into the hopes and ideals of your followers, I'm going to read this again. When you can tap into the hopes and ideals of followers, when you give them a sense of purpose and you inspire them to achieve great things. So that is, as a leader, when you can use, let me see, when you are to persuade others, when you can use powerful speech, when you can establish your own credibility, and when you can then tap into your followers' emotions and their passions. That's when you are at your maximum of charisma. That's what charisma is all about, is tapping into those things in such a way that people are going to follow what you are saying. So let's dive into those 12 things that these guys have identified. They're calling them the charismatic leadership tactics. So, and they've identified 12 of them. And there's way more than this, but this is what they have identified. So this is what, let's just chat about them. They are you ready? They are metaphors, similes, and analogies. Now, as marketers and writers, we use those all the time, right? metaphors, similes, and analogies, stories and anecdotes. You've heard me talk about stories and the power of stories before. Contrasts, rhetorical questions, three-part lists, the magic of three, right? Expressions of moral conviction, reflections of the group's sentiments, reflecting them back so that the group feels heard, they feel, yeah, you're speaking my language. The setting of high goals and conveying confidence that they can be achieved. So there are also three other nonverbal tactics, which are an animated voice, facial expressions, and gestures. So let's talk about those 12 first, though. And as I was reading them, didn't they sound a lot like, if you're a copywriter, if you have worked with a copywriter, if you have studied copywriting, do those sound familiar, right? As copywriters, we learn that. We learn to use all of those elements in our copy because we're writing persuasive copy, right? So, but interestingly enough, so you use those same things when you are speaking, when you are presenting, when you are writing. So let's dive in. So metaphors, similes, and analogies. So that's when you're talking about, the example that they gave here is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. And in that speech, he talked about, he likened the Constitution, the United States Constitution, to a promissory note, right? So he said it is like a promissory note. That's a simile. And he was talking about how that America had given its citizens a bad check, a check that came back with insufficient funds. Well, that's a metaphor, right? So remember your grammar class? Similes are the things that are when you use something is like something and you spell it out that it is like something. A metaphor is when you just talk about it and explain it as if it were that something else. And so they used another example from business, and they were talking about a manager when he was explaining this kind of it was a contentious move, a contentious thing that the company was implementing. And so he, in describing it, the manager in describing this move to his team, the manager was saying, it is, the quote is, when I heard about it from the board, it was like hearing about a long-awaited pregnancy. So it was like hearing about this pregnancy. So he's combining the simile and the metaphor, and he's comparing it, right? So this move is like this long-awaited pregnancy. There's going to be some rough patches, and especially the labor part is going to be tough. But at the end, you're going to have this baby. So, and he was saying, and everybody knows that, right? Even if you aren't a mother, even if you haven't been pregnant, you know what he's talking about there, right? So you put an idea into a common experience that really helps people understand it. This is one of the elements of a charismatic leader, a charismatic speaker, a charismatic marketer. So those were three, right? Similes, metaphors, analogies. They all kind of go together. The next couple of tactics are stories and anecdotes. Now, as marketers, we know the power of stories, right? They are powerful. We have a story wired brain. We as a collective people, right? We respond to stories. They are just so powerful. They make your messages more engaging. They help people connect with you, they make you memorable because people will remember the stories that you tell them. And anecdotes are just short little stories, right? Little tiny ones. So when you use stories and anecdotes, it helps people connect with you. And that's part of being charismatic, is helping people find that connection and feel that connection with you, right? Because when they feel that connection, then they are more apt to be motivated, inspired to do what you're saying. All right, so we're already on the 6th tactic, right? So the 6th charismatic element or tactic that these guys identified are contrasts, using contrasts. So you clarify your position by pitting it against the opposite, by contrasting it to an opposite. The example they use, JFK's, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Classic example of contrast. And by the way, a very charismatic leader, right? But they're so powerful. Being this element, this tactic of contrast is it works because it combines both reason and passion, right? So you're marrying the logical and the emotional sides of your brain by giving this contrast, and doing so in a way that highlights your position, right? So try and think about using contrasts when you are getting your message across. All right, number 7 is using rhetorical questions. And, so rhetorical questions are kind of tricky, right? Because you're told in sales, you're told as a lawyer, never ask a question that you don't already know the answer to, right? And especially don't ask a question that somebody could say no to, unless you want them to say no. But rhetorical questions are interesting. So again, Martin Luther King Jr. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? Okay, when will you be satisfied? That's kind of a rhetorical question, right? Or they also used the example of Anita Roddick, who founded the Body Shop. She used 3 rhetorical questions that helped her start the social responsibility movement that her company, the Body Shop, is so well known for. Her 3 rhetorical questions were: how do you make business kinder? How do you embed it in the community? And how do you make community a social purpose for business? So could they be answered? Well, yeah, but they're really thought-provoking. And I guess that's what they're really meaning by rhetorical is, it's not an easily answered question, right? It makes you think. And when you're using those rhetorical questions and you're not expecting an answer, really, but you're wanting people to think, and you're wanting them and you're asking them in a way that you're guiding them to your way of thinking. Here's another example from a manager talking to one of their team members. So where do you want to go from here? And this was, by the way, in like a performance review where they kind of needed some work, right? They needed to improve what they were doing. So where do you want to go from here? Will it be back to your office feeling sorry for yourself? Or do you want to show what you are capable of achieving? Kind of a rhetorical question. Do they really want to say, yeah, I kind of want to go back to my office and feel sorry for myself? They're not really expecting an answer to that, but it makes them think, and it guides them towards, kind of what this manager wants the employee to do, right? Does that make sense? All right. The 3-part lists. Okay, guys, I have to admit, this is one of my favorite things to do, is use 3-part lists. As a copywriter, as a speaker, as a coach, as a mom. I use 3-part lists. I'm making it 3 points, right? I do it all the time. I recognize that in myself. I do it all the time. And I hope to say that maybe I'm a little charismatic. I would like to think so. But it's something, and it's interesting that in this chapter in this book, a lot of they mentioned that a lot of people when they were told these different elements, they're like, well, hey, I've been using those all along, haven't even been thinking about it. And yes, right? That is the beauty. That is the beauty of so many people. That's why people think that it's just charisma is just intuitive, because so many people do it without even realizing what they're doing. But remember, I told you this from the beginning. You can learn this. You can train yourself, you can practice, and you can train yourself to be more charismatic. And so I got off on a tangent there, and I'm sorry, but these 3-part lists, like I say, as copywriters, we are taught that 3-part lists are magical to the brain. Make 3 points, 3 bullet points, 3 email follow-ups, or any other odd number, right? But a minimum of 3. The magic of 3. So 3-part lists. Okay, and here they have a great explanation for why 3 is so important and so magical. People can remember 3 things. 3 is sufficient to provide a pattern, right? If you just say one thing, well, okay, 1. But 3, now you've got a pattern. And 3 gives an impression of completeness, right? Completeness. So you are making a complete argument. You are making a complete statement. You are giving enough of a pattern, and you are helping people with 3. They can remember it. They can tell it to somebody else because it's 3. It's easily memorable. So here's one of their examples. Manager at a team meeting. We have the best product on the market. We have the best team, yet we did not make the sales target. So that's not exactly a 3-point list, but it's 3 points that he was making, right? 3 points. Here's another one from business, a marketing or a manufacturing company. Manager was talking to her staff. And she said, first, we need to look back and see what we did right. Next, we need to see where we went wrong. And then we need to come up with a plan that will convince the board to give us the resources. So even though you don't say 1, 2, and 3, we have these cues, these verbal cues that we use. First, next, then. 1, 2, 3, right? I bet now that I've told you about that, I bet if you think about it and you're just more self-aware, you're doing this yourself. I'm sure of it. All right. That was number 8. 9 and 10 they kind of go together. It's the expression of moral conviction, and then the statements that reflect the sentiments of the group. And this is helping you boost your credibility with people. It's helping you connect with them. It's helping them see you as somebody who is worthy of being followed, right? Because if you have strong moral convictions, you're not some wishy-washy, well, maybe you're going to change mid-route or whatever. They're going to follow you, and they're going to know what you stand for. And when you reflect back to them their sentiments, then you're establishing yourself as part of their group. You are establishing that you have heard them, and everybody wants to be heard, and everyone wants to feel like they're being heard. So when you are reflecting back, you're letting them know that, hey, you do understand them, and they have been heard. So again, very powerful, charismatic tactics. All right, number 11 is setting high goals and communicating those high goals. You have high expectations, and that kind of goes along with your strong convictions and everything. But when you have high expectations, that is, I'm sorry to keep using the word, but that is powerful, right? Because you expect a lot from them. And what do you say? What's the saying about expectations? You get what you expect. So if you are expecting great things, if you are expecting high achievements, if you are setting the bar up here, then that helps people get behind you. That helps people buy in to your vision as well. Now, they have to be realistic. They can't be so high as to be unreachable, but they are high and believable goals, right? So the example that they used for that one is Gandhi. And the high goal that he set was to liberate India from British rule without using violence. Unheard of, right? Yet he was adamant and he was unwavering in that. And people followed him. So that was their example with that one. And then, of course, and I kind of already gave this away, but then you also, number 12, you also have to convey confidence that those goals can be achieved, right? You don't set these high goals and then just say, good luck, right? You convey the utmost confidence that, yes, they are high, and your audience can achieve it. All right, so here's Gandhi's, their example with Gandhi again. Quotes, "I know the British government will not be able to withhold freedom from us when we have made enough self-sacrifice. Even if all the United Nations opposes me, even if the whole of India forsakes me, I will say you are wrong, and India will wrench with nonviolence her liberty from unwilling hands." Pretty charismatic, right? He has that utmost belief that, yes, he has a high goal, but he has that utmost belief that it is achievable, it is attainable, and with enough other people believing it too and acting on it, it will become a reality. So, isn't this interesting, right? Let me go through these again, right? So, metaphors, similes, analogies, stories and anecdotes, contrasts, rhetorical questions, 3-part lists, you know that's my favorite, expressions of moral conviction, reflections of the group's sentiments, setting high goals, and conveying confidence that they can be achieved. Now, a word of caution. You are not expected to use all 12 of them all at once, all together. That is a little crazy, right? Can you imagine trying to put all of those into one? It would be like you're trying too hard. But if you do practice and you prepare, right? So instead of just doing a speech off the cuff, prepare, give yourself some notes. Think about the story that you're going to tell to illustrate your point. Think about what kind of simile you can use. As a writer, you don't just come up with these things as you're writing. You really do have to think about it and plan and prepare, right? And you have to spend some time thinking about it before it just naturally comes out, right? Or naturally goes onto the paper or onto the computer screen. So you really do need to prepare. And you need to practice. The more you do it, the easier it'll be, the more natural it'll be. So, and again, I'm going to give you a quote. The goal isn't to employ all the tactics in every conversation, but to use a balanced combination. I had highlighted that for you. I wanted to make sure that I made that point. use balance. Use what comes natural to the situation, to the point you're making, right? But if you continue to do that, if you do work on it, you can become more charismatic. You can become more persuasive. You can become the leader that you're meant to be, right? The leader, the marketer. Isn't it interesting? I mean, we've been talking about being a leader or in business, a manager, but isn't it true that as a marketer, you're doing the same thing, right? You are helping your audience, your prospects, your customers see the value in what you are offering them. You're helping them see the benefit of using your product or service, right? You are leading them to a better life because of their choice to use your product or service. When you think about it like that, your sales and marketing get so much easier, don't they? So that is what I have for you for today. Thank you for being with me on this journey through influence and persuasion. I hope you have found value in it. I know it's been a lot to cover today, especially. I mean, 12 things. My goodness. I went out of my comfort zone. My comfort zone is that 3, right? But thank you. Thank you for being here with me. I do hope this has helped. If you have found value in it, please do. Sharing is caring. Share it with somebody else who would also find value and need to hear this kind of stuff. Make sure you have turned on notifications so that you know the next time I go live and so you don't miss anything. And if you are watching this on the replay and you have a comment, feel free. I do monitor and check. And if you leave me a comment, I will get back to you. And if there's ever any way that I can help you with your marketing, with attracting more of your ideal clients so that, and keeping them around, retaining them, attract, retain, and profit, make more money, then do let me know. I am here for you when you need the help. So thanks again. That is it for today. I will see you again next time. Have a beautiful day.